son is racing.
Welcome, race fans, to another episode of the Rubbin' Is Racing Daily Fantasy NASCAR Show. We have all your action for the Quaker State 400 from Kentucky, which is not the Quaker State, it's the Bluegrass State, but oh well. Stages in Sparta are at laps 80, lap 160, and then we'll go all the way to the finish at lap 287. And Liehr, it is nice to have you back again this week, brother. Welcome back.
Good to be back, my man. In 7 total races here, the winner has won from the top 10, 6 of those races. The winner has come from the second position in the last 2 years to win the race, and Kez went 1-1 back in 2014. In the words of our new Fane Mullet favorite, how about that race, boys and girls? Congrats to Eric Jones in his first NASCAR Monster Energy Cup win.
The weather will be hot and humid with temps in the mid-90s when we go racing, with temperatures cooling off over the course of the race. So it'll be hot and sticky when we go racing at 7:30 p.m. Eastern on NBC Sports Network. For another week, we have the big three that we're just going to get out of the way, and a unique situation that we'll cover after the big three of a couple cars that didn't qualify. Let's start with the big three, though, and let's start with Rowdy. At 11,000, Rowdy Busch has won 8 times at Kentucky across the 3 series, including his 2 Cup wins. He's led a total of 549 laps here. He's starting 5th. Is there any reason why you don't want to play Rowdy Busch this week?
Including add another 111 laps to that for tonight's race.
There you go. I wasn't counting Xfinity laps with the 549.
Yeah, man. I mean, he's always obviously got to be one of the guys you need to have some exposure on this weekend. But to be 100% honest with you, I'm all about Martin Truex Jr. and the number 78 team. You know, obviously they were fastest in qualifying today. They've been fast all day today. And usually, obviously, based on the stats and based on all the information, you know, that winner is going to be coming and that dominator is going to be coming from that top 5. So we've got all 3 of them in the top 5 with Truex at 1, Busch at 5, and Harvick at 3. So it's going to be pick your poison this weekend. You may be able to roster 2 of them, but, I mean, you're really going the stars and scrubs route if you go that route because salaries are so tight this weekend with those 3 over 11,000 this weekend.
I like the Truex play, but at 11,200, he's a little bit pricey for what he's done here in the past, except for the fact that he won the race here last year and became the first person not named Kyle Busch or Brad Keselowski to win here in 7 years. So I like your Truex play. I think the least of the guys that I'm interested in the big 3 this week is Harvick, which sickens me a little bit because he looked really good on the long runs that he put out. And at 11,600, it's so tough to get him into salaries. I think this perhaps might be the week that Harvick's the lowest owned of the 3. So you might be able to get the best car on the circuit at low ownership, but I don't know. In my opinion, I'm with you. I like Truex and Rowdy a little bit more, but I still haven't decided which route I'm going with the 3 Bane studs this week.
Yeah, and on top of that, too, obviously you're talking about 2 Toyotas versus the Ford. The Fords have obviously been fast all season long, but they're just, for some reason, you know, it must be that Toyota factory that they have there in Kentucky, but they run really, really fast there at Kentucky Speedway and Sparta. So consistently they've shown speed after speed after speed. And then, you know, throw Christopher Bell in there tonight for the Xfinity race. Good run for Kyle Busch as well. So just one of those things where the Toyotas and the way that they're, and obviously, you know, we're talking about a track where obviously it's different than Daytona last week, but Aero is going to play a huge role in the guys' speed this weekend. So, you know, being out front, getting that clean air, especially on this track, it's going to be vitally important, and I think the Toyotas have an advantage there.
Yeah, and I think it's only fair to say that of all the tracks, if you're looking to swerve on Harvick this week, he doesn't have the best finishes here. His best finish is 7th. He has a series of top 10 finishes, but he doesn't even have top 5 finishes here. So I can understand if you're trying to fade Harvick this weekend, and it makes sense. But once again, that kind of makes it appealing because of his low ownership. But I think what you said about the Toyotas is just spot on. They traditionally just run really, really well here.
And it's just hard to have that come out of your mouth, and you're like, well, I don't know if I'll play Harvick at a 1.5-mile track. It's like, right. Okay.
But speaking of Toyotas, I think it transitions as well into the qualifying conundrum because we have Denny Hamlin, who is also a really strong car here traditionally, and he was fastest in the 10-lap averages in final practice. But because they couldn't get that car through qualifying specs, he's going to start 36th. How much Denny Hamlin are you looking to own this week, or are you just 100%? I'm pretty sure I'm 100% on Hamlin. I'm just going with it.
That Joe Gibbs number 11 FedEx car is pushing the envelope today with being within specs, and obviously it came back to bite him, because the opticals machine, what do they call it, the OSS or optical scanning machine or something like that. They scanned both of the body and then the tires, and obviously they just couldn't get through because, right before qualifying started in the first round with the 15-minute round, there were 10 cars still waiting in line to get through the specs. So these guys are obviously, pushing the envelope here. And this happened last year because if memory serves me correctly, this is also the same race where Kyle Larson did the same thing, started 40th and had a great finish. So, these guys are just trying to do the best that they can with pushing that envelope, but still stay within those guidelines. And they just couldn't get it done. So based off the practice times and this being one of Hamlin's stronger tracks, it's kind of a no-brainer free square play. But the ownership percentage is going to be, in reality, it'll probably be about 50% to 65%, when in all actuality, it should be 80 or higher.
Yeah. No, I think you're absolutely right and spot on in that. We have 3 other cars that also failed to qualify. One of them is our value favorite, and Matty DiBenedetto starting 37th. I don't care what his ownership percentage is. Starting 37th, that's just the right play for value this week.
Yeah.
Especially when you look that these 4 guys not qualifying bumped everybody up. And a couple weeks ago, we had that conversation where it really pushes guys into a territory where you're really not comfortable taking them because the models show that they're right at the ceiling of where they can finish. So Matty DB is a great pivot to go to this week. I think he's going to be high owned, but who cares? Jesse Little's starting 38th, and Timmy Hill is starting 39th. They also couldn't get their cars through inspection. Those are very risky plays, but in a Stars and Scrubs lineup, they might be the salary relief you need. But guys, we know how risky it is playing those guys. But if there's a track that people can get taken out at, Kentucky's one of them. It just takes a guy missing the entrance to turn 3 and can easily rack up some cars. So if you want to play it, there are definitely worse things to do, I guess. But just know it's inherently risky. Do you have any thoughts on playing those super punts this week?
Yeah, that's way risky. I would love to say yes, but I can't. Proof is in the pudding tonight. We had guys that were multiple laps down, and that's just going to happen here at this track. The top's just running so fast, and those guys in the back just can't keep up with them, and they're going to go multiple laps down. And when you get to that position where you're multiple laps down, you're not making up positions unless somebody gets taken out for a wreck, or we have a mechanical problem, or something like that. And you can only gain 1 lap back, every time there's a caution. So, DiBurrito, Hamlin, yay for sure. The other 2 boys, thanks for entering the entry list, but good luck on tomorrow night.
Thank you for filling out the field. All right. Now that we've got that important house cleaning out of the way, Liehr, I believe it's time for you to do something for us.
Kentucky bluegrass style, baby!
Nice. Like the bluegrass style thrown in there. All right, Liehr. You had a week off again. This time it was my fault. So make up for it with a strong burning rubber pick this week. Who you got for us, buddy?
Well, my man, it's good to be back and talking NASCAR and talking fantasy NASCAR picks with you. and everybody out there. Hope you guys did well last week at Daytona. It was an awesome race to watch. Obviously at Daytona, it's always fun to watch them, and the big one happened. Sounds like we've got a new little soiree between Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and Rowdy Busch. See if that'll play any part in this weekend, if there's going to be any retribution there. Or
I'm sorry, before you get into your pick, I have to interrupt, dude. Is that not just the funniest thing to you? Because, it's one of the best of the sport, clearly, and a guy that is lucky to win on restrictor plate tracks. And it's just bro, you are fighting the wrong fight with the wrong driver. Like that. I'm sorry, that's just my opinion.
No, I get it on the racetrack, but dude, if we're talking about they get out of the car and we're, pulling sleeves up and getting to a position, I'm putting my money on Stenhouse. I don't care. Kyle Busch is on top. No physicality. But
Rowdy's correct. Ricky wrecked half the field and was involved in 4 of the 5 wrecks.
Oh, I didn't say he wasn't he was a good driver. He didn't make those bad choices.
Well, we're watching and evaluating NASCAR, not MMA. So
I know, but when it comes to reality, I mean, I'm just saying, if there was I know we got some guys that watch our NASCAR show for some NASCAR picks, but they also do MMA podcasts. But I mean, if we had an MMA fantasy lineup between Rowdy Busch and Ricky Stenhouse, man, I'm putting my dough on Ricky Stenhouse with Little Mighty Mouse, giving him some uppercuts.
That's probably fair, since the only fight we've seen Rowdy go into, he came out bloody. So,
but it was with a much taller Joey Logano.
Well, let's be clear. He was clocked by a crew member, not by Joey Logano.
Yeah, very true. I mean, I would still say, one of the best is definitely Kevin Harvick. I mean, when he was younger, he would stand his ground and he would stir up the pot big time, but that man would back it up too. So, But all right, man.
Get into your pick. Sorry, we got sidetracked. Get into your pick.
Back to the task at hand here. But I'm going to be pulling a big Poppa on y'all out there, and going to be providing you with a twofer here.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm rolling Chip Ganassi Racing with the number 42 of Kyle Larson and the number 1 of J-Mac, otherwise known as Jamie Murray, for those of you out there that don't know the nicknames. Larson and the guys have had an up-and-down season, of course, but we come of Larson's specialties, which is the 1.5-mile tracks. Now, granted, this type of track and where they run, it's not going to be like some of the other tracks that we go to where he's, has it like he likes it and running up against the wall. It's more of only about 1 or 2 groups here at Kentucky, but at least at the last 1.5 mile, he was battling against Rowdy there for the win at Chicagoland, just coming up short, with them 2 beating and banging towards the end there. But he starts tomorrow night from the 18th position. His cost this week is $10,400, which is the 4th highest on the board. He has raced here 4 times with a great race last year, like I just talked about a little bit earlier, when he started 40th and finished 2nd. He was fastest in practice 1 today, which, of course, like we talk about, don't put a ton of stock into that because most of them are out there trumming around in qualifying equipment, qualifying trim and not race trim. But his fastest practice, was great. And then in the second practice, not so much. I think he was 25th fastest. But outside the big 3, I think Larson is a great pick with his place differential and potential dominator combination performance there that he could live up to. But he's definitely a dual threat kind of guy this weekend. But J-Mac is also, got some good points this season as well. Mostly has not lived up to the hype this season. He starts 22nd in his Arctic Cat number 1. His cost this week is $7,900, which is been around his average this year, but a little higher than obviously you would like it to be. But he's raced here 7 times with 0 wins. He's got 1 top 5 and 3 top 10s in those 7 starts. So hovering around that 50% mark of top 10s here at Kentucky. But over the last 2 years, great finishes by him with back-to-back 7th place finishes. He's definitely going to be a tough guy to roster this week with a lot of the people probably going the stars and scrubs kind of philosophy or route this weekend when it comes to strategy with your lineups. But I definitely think you got to make it a point to make these two boys at Chip Ganassi part of that lineup, because obviously both potential of great place differential. I obviously give the nod to Larson for the possibility of getting to the top and leading laps here. Not so much J-Mac, but J-Mac's definitely a place differential guy at that salary point. But I think you need to be all over Chip Ganassi Racing this weekend, because I think they're going to do you right this week.
See, I like your plays here. I like both of them. The only problem is, once again, that the Chevys have booked off all year, and I think there's a better play that I'm about to cover a little bit in my burning rubber. But it's not that I don't like these plays. I think they're really good, and Larson is one of those guys in the teams that I really like as well as Logano. I think Amarola is an interesting play at 12. Elliott at 16th is also interesting in that range. But I like where your head's at with the Larson play, just because he seems to be better here. And the real reason why I like your Chip Ganassi play is the way that the temperatures are going to fall off, and the way we know that this track usually runs. It's about teams that can make some adjustments over the long haul. And Ganassi is one of those teams that makes adjustments and does it right. I like both of these cars for that. You're also going to see from the way we talk, we like a lot of the Stewart-Haas cars, the Penske cars this week. Just the teams that are better, that are more well-rounded, that seem to make the adjustments over the long haul of a race. And I think that's what it's going to take in this heat that's then going to be dying off, and with the sun being down this week.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, too, real quick, Larson could be, and Jamie McMurray at the same time, could both be kind of that forgotten kind of guy, just based off of where everybody's going to hover towards the big three this weekend with that huge salary. Hard to get two guys with over 10K in a lineup. So I think that Larson may be one of those guys that could be possibly overlooked a little bit this weekend and have some good ownership percentage on him.
I agree, and I think somebody else that's going to go overlooked a little bit, at least more than he should, is going to be Brad Keselowski, my first of two burning rubber picks this week. He's starting fourth, and as I said earlier, he's responsible for three of the last 6 wins here. He's also led 483 laps here, which is second only to Rowdy Busch. I love this Kes play. I'm not hearing a lot of buzz about it. He was fast in practice. They're another one of those teams that makes adjustments. Keselowski has Kentucky figured out. And the key to Kentucky is your entrance into turn 3 and holding the control through 3 and 4. He's one of the guys that we know can do it, and we know puts up good numbers here. At 9,800, it's a nice little bit of salary relief from some of the big three, and even and that little bit of difference from Larson down to him is interesting. But once again, Larson's a place differential play with the potential to dominate. Kes is a play that you're making as a dominator since he's starting fourth. If you don't have a race vision where Kes is going to go out and lead laps and contend for the win here, then you really should probably be fading him this week. The 1B play of my, if you will, of my burning rubber is the place differential play that I was talking about earlier with Liehr, and that is Jimmy Johnson, who's starting 27th. The $9,100 price tag is going to limit ownership on him and have people looking in other directions. Jimmy Johnson may be one of those separators that you can get this week if salary constraints force people to go in other directions, which I think it's going to when you play some of the studs. Liehr, what are your thoughts on Kes and Jimmy Johnson?
Let's start with Kes first. This is his second best track compared to Talladega, where he's got 5 wins. He's got 3 wins here at Kentucky. That's the second highest wins that he has on all tracks in his career. Pretty clear that this guy knows what he's doing when he comes to Kentucky. Honestly, he wasn't that far behind on qualifying today either. So it's a team that is hungry, coming to one of his best tracks. They have 0 wins this season. You know that he wants to get that monkey off his back. I look for them to definitely be a top 5 car this weekend, no doubt. I just don't know if they have the car and the moxie to be the dominator performance that you need for your fantasy teams this weekend. Am I going to play him? Damn right I'm going to play him. Am I going to play him a ton? Honestly, I don't know, because it's one of those guys that is also a large salary eater,
Mm-hmm.
and I've got some guys that I really like, and in order to get myself where I need to be this weekend, it's going to be damn hard to get him in there. But I'm going to have to find some ways to get him in, because this is just a guy that you can't ignore here at Kentucky. His second best track on the circuit. You just got to plug him in some places, because you never know what's going to happen. I mean, we could have a situation where something happens to one of those top the top three, maybe two of the top three, and then before you know it, boom, Keselowski's in front and not looking back. So I'm definitely going to have some exposure on Keselowski. Man, it's just so hard to see that number 48 team, that guy fall from grace, where he's gone to. Just, I mean, handful of years back, what he was to where he is now. I don't know, man. It's crazy. I want to have exposure on him for sure. It's just that I don't know if I can put all my, trust into that number 48 team, and that they're going to, I don't know. What is your vision for them? Our top 10 finish? So 17 place differential points for that team?
Right. Like, yeah, I think if he places anywhere in the low teens to 10 or better, you're getting dramatic value out of that place differential car, and it's going to pay off for you.
It's just the only thing with Jimmie Johnson is, even in final practice, I mean, he was 30th fastest in final practice. So they are absolutely struggling to find the speed when it comes to that car. But, I mean, it's hard to deny the fact either that you got a guy with that equipment that, I mean, he is the best of our generation driver, 7 championships, to not roster him this weekend, starting from a 27th position. But like you said, I think salary constraints are going to make it very, very difficult for that to happen. So I think you're going to get Jimmie Johnson at pretty low ownership percentage, especially too when you're talking about people. Okay, do I play Johnson? Do I play Hammond? I can't play both, because I mean, you're going to have 3-4 guys 9K or higher on your team. So it's going to make it absolutely difficult to get all these guys on there. And I feel like we say it week after week, but you're going to have to pick and choose your battles, but pick wisely. I just don't know if I can roll the number 48.
No, I completely understand, and that's part of why I wanted to talk about it, is because with him starting 27th and his price being so high, and to be honest, he's way overpriced for what that car's been doing this year. But at the same time, that's going to discourage people from owning him, which should make me want to play him even more. Because even though the Chevys have been awful across the board this year, Jimmy should be good enough to pay off with place differential there. But like you said, it gets tough because you play a Dominator, you're playing Hamlin, and if you decide to roster Jimmy too, that's 3 guys 9+, you're in trouble.
Right.
So because we're talking about spending 3 guys 9+, some of which are $11,000 this week, geez, what is the value play that you're looking to go to save some money?
I'm going to be going with Double K in Casey Kane, and then number 95 Levine Family Racing car. They've had a pretty good season for a one-car team. I think it's been a successful, we're halfway through the season now. Kind of looking at it from an outside perspective, I think it's been a pretty good decision by them, even though McDowell has also done really, really well too. But I think Kane, with his history, he's brought some really good things to that team, and they've had some really good results, including last week, having an awesome finish at Daytona of 4th. But his worst finish in his last 4 races has been 27th, which it was also at a 1.5-mile track. But Kane will be starting from the 29th position tomorrow, which is obviously a great position for him and the 95 team. He's raced here 7 times, so every year that they've come here, he's raced here. He's got 0 wins, 1 top 5, and 2 top 10s. Obviously, I know that's in Hendrick Motorsports equipment, so and not Levine Family Racing equipment. But his cost this week is $6,700. So I mean, getting up, and I think that's going to be everybody this week. If you look at all the salaries, pretty much everybody's salaries is kind of gone up a little bit. But plus with the DeBurrito factor starting from the rear this week, that's over $1,200 more than DeBurrito. So I think he's going to have probably a lot lower ownership percentage than most people would think. But it's an important thing for him to stay on that lead lap. Like we talked about, if he gets too far down, it's going to be hard for him and that team to get back on the lead lap and actually move positions up, because that's one of the things I'm afraid of this week is picking guys too far back in the field, that they end up going laps down, multiple laps down, and then they don't have the opportunity to get out of that and get on the lead lap and then move up positions. So basically you'd be stuck right there in the position that they're at, and you're not going to get any more additional points for it. So that is one of my worries that I have for Kane. But if he can stay on the lead lap, I think that team will be fine. As far as practice today, he was okay. I mean, he was 29th fastest when it came to single lap. And then as far as the 10-lap averages, they didn't run one. So, as far as a guy in a starting position that can give you good place differential points, kind of on that verge, I like him with a couple other guys, but Casey Kane's always a good guy to roll with, especially at a 1.5-mile track.
Yeah, I completely agree with your Casey Kane play. I agree with your analysis for the most part. The only thing I disagree with you on, and the only thing I'm going to take umbrage with, is the fact that you think he's going to be low owned. I think he's going to be astronomically high owned, and that's fine. It might be the right play, but I do not see in the value arena who the guys are you would rather play, because most of them are starting too high up. The other guys that you're kind of interested in is my value play. And guys, I apologize before I get started in this.
Welcome to Value Arena, starring Big Poppa.
All right, fair enough. I deserve that. All right, so in my opinion, one of Chris Buescher's starting 20th at 6,500, but just a heads up, he's driving a green car now, and we know the theory of the green cars, how they jinx drivers, apparently. I don't know if you believe in that. Don't play him. You've got Dinger starting 26th, who at 6,400 has the worst track history of the three guys I'm going to talk about. And then we have Michael McDowell starting 23rd at 6,100. Now, all three of these guys are starting right close to where I think they're going to finish, which scares me and means that you may not want to play them. Guys, I'm fairly confident in, at least in my opinion, is going to gain some place differential, not just hold their position and be that value play. The problem is I don't know which one of those three it's going to be, but I'm fairly confident it's going to be one of those three guys in Buescher, Dinger, and McDowell. So I wanted to give you guys my thought process as opposed to just going with a gut picking one. Plus, Liehr took the obvious play of value at Casey Kane, and we've already talked about Matty D, which is a no-brainer. So I'm giving you my three homies, and saying one of these guys is going to be the play you want. I just don't know which one. Liehr, your thoughts on me kind of going cheap and throwing three guys out there?
Man, you were this close. I thought you were so going to take it there with the play on words with the Gain and Chris Buescher.
Oh, there you go.
But you didn't go there. So
well, you did. So there.
No, man, I love Chris Buescher this weekend. For him, I would be so. Obviously, last week I would be so pissed off at my teammate AJ Allmendinger when they're getting to the last lap there at Daytona, and he did not push Chris Buescher. Yeah. He decided to get out of line, and if I was Chris Buescher, I'd be so upset with AJ Allmendinger. But go figure. But that's why AJ Allmendinger is who he is and where he's at. But out of those three guys, I definitely love Chris Buescher this weekend. He was one of the guys I was teeter-tottering on with making my value play. I mean, you just can't beat a guy that he's been doing really, really well, man. I have been impressed with Chris Buescher this season. Mm-hmm. The more and more that guy gets exposure, racing week in, week out, I mean, the guy's worst finish in the last 5 races is 24th, with a 12th, a 17th, and a 5th. Now, granted, the 5th is at Daytona, but I mean, there's just something about that team. They've got it going on, and I like McDowell too. That would be more of a kind of a swervish play. He's $6,100. When you've got Chris Buescher, who's a little more expensive at $6,500. But I'm not really on the dinger play this week. Just not really feeling it. But definitely Chris Buescher. I think he can stay on the lead lap, get up there, and with a little bit of attrition, a little bit of carnage happening, guy's got a top 15. So yeah, give me Chris Buescher and Casey Kane all day, every day this weekend. So, but yeah, I definitely love those picks, man. And you're right. I mean, after the guys we've already talked about, between Di Benedetto and the 4 that we've talked about, there's really not much else out there unless you want to go a little bit more contrarian if you're playing in, the big tournament. Maybe a Billy Byron. We don't talk much about Billy Byron on the show. We haven't had much reason to, but, or even a Matt Kenseth at 17th. Getting back in the car this weekend after Trevor Bayne's been in it for the last couple of weeks. But, and then you got Bubba Wallace, 25th. Right, he's also a good play too.
But Bubba's been a dumpster fire. Kenseth, when he's been behind that car, has been finishing 10 spots behind where he's starting. Like, these are the arguments of why, we weren't talking about those people. But I understand that those are pivots people can make. And Byron's in one of the Chevys that just hasn't been running well all year.
Yeah.
And is starting a little higher than what I want him at 21. But
yeah,
and even Ty Dillon starting 28th is just starting too high up. Plus he's over-owned every week. That's why we're going the direction we're going with our value picks this week, guys. It's a little sketch. I mean, I would love to be able to play Ross Chastain, but he's starting 30th, and once again, he's going to be one of those cars that goes multiple laps down, and that's too high. You're going to lose place differential there. So that kind of qualifying eliminates a lot of the possible plays this week.
Yeah.
All right, speaking of eliminating possible plays this week, it's everybody's favorite segment, Going to the Garage, where we talk a little bit of trash on the drivers. Sometimes we're talking trash on teams, on NASCAR. Sometimes it's on DraftKings. Liehr, who are you talking some trash on and sending to the garage this week, buddy?
Well, this guy's one of the ones that's also got a little bit of green on his car this week. What is up with the green on all the cars this weekend? I mean, even tonight in the Xfinity, the number 12 was awfully greenish tonight too, which is a Penske car. But this guy's an affiliate of Penske. But I'm going to be taking a pretty obvious play here, and that would be Mr. Paul Menard and the 21 team as my Going to the Garage pick this week. The Wood Brother boys have had some pretty good qualifying runs as of late. This week, obviously, Menard overqualified, starting from the 6th position, and was on the pole just 2 weeks ago. So, who would have thunk it that Paul Menard would be qualifying so high? His cost this week is $7,200, which is higher, obviously, than average for him in this season. Even though he's down $200 from last week's price at Daytona, he's raced here 7 times, so every time they've come here to Kentucky, he's been here. He's got 0 wins, 0 top 5s, 0 top 10s. His best finish here was a 12th place finish in 2012. He was 24th fastest in final practice today and was second to last in 10-lap averages during that final practice. Pretty easy grand slam this week, boys and girls. Do not play Paul Menard this week.
Fade Menard. I agree. Another person I'm going to tell you to fade is Eric Jones. I'm sending him to the garage at 8,300. Look, congrats on the win last week, kid, but yeah, really need to buy Ricky a beer when you're old enough to, or buy him a high C fruit punch or something. Take him to Chuck E. Cheese, because had it not been for Ricky, you would have not had a shot at winning that race.
He could go to the grocery store and buy him one of those Huggy drinks.
Yes, one of his Huggy jugs. The little hugs. Or a Sunny D, perhaps. Yeah.
Yes.
I don't see there's any way possible that Eric Jones is going to be a dominator at this track. And starting second, he has to be. Jones is just an easy fade. Now, if you're under a race vision where you think Eric Jones getting the monkey off his back last week allows him to just bust through and he's going to be a dominator this week, by all means, feel free to roster him. You will probably have lower ownership percentage than what you should, and and if he does it, you'll win all the money, probably. But I just don't see a race vision where Eric Jones does that. Do you think I'm wrong, Liehr? Eric Jones is an easy fade coming off a fluky win for me.
I do say blasphemy, sir. Blasphemy at its finest.
Okay.
To you.
Okay.
Something that we actually disagree on for once. Yeah, man, I love Eric Jones this week. Guy been super fast all freaking day long. Finished the final practice as the fastest car. Qualified second behind his former Furniture Row Racing teammate and Martin Truex Jr. And, dude, coming off of the win, how much confidence does that provide this young man after seriously just having such an awesome performance? I know that he got some help from Chris Buescher last week in getting the win. Also, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. as well. But the other thing, though, too, is I think that he's going to lead some laps tomorrow, man. I think he's going to have a great finish. I think, after last year, we had Martin Truex Jr. led the most laps. I think it was like 150 or something like that. And then Kyle Busch was second, who started second with 111, something like that. So basically it was a 2-horse race between those two. It started 1 and 2. It's the same thing that basically happened last year. I think it's probably going to happen this year. You got 2 guys, 2 Toyotas, 2 starting fast, 2 former teammates. Man, I'm getting so excited I can't even talk. I love the play. And he's such a salary reliever, too. You're talking about a guy that is $8,300, and probably a lot of people are going to have the same mind frame that you do, and that is, oh gosh, he's starting second. He's got no other direction to go but backwards. This is a guy coming off.
Smart people.
That gives him so much confidence last week to get that monkey off his back. He's got to win first and foremost over one of the guys that's most popular on the circuit, and that's Chase Elliott. The guy is very, very talented. I think that gives him a lot of confidence going into tomorrow night. He showed a lot of speed today. Dude, he's going to lead some laps tomorrow, and he's going to be on a lot of my fantasy teams.
Okay, well, I'm just going to prepare you now. You're going to lose a lot of money. I really believe that.
I remember the last time you and I had a
I know. I've told you to fade Eric Jones once before, and I was straight wrong because he led a bunch of laps.
I'm sorry, what was that? Could you repeat that? I didn't hear
it. I told you to fade Eric Jones once before when he was sitting on the pole, and I was wrong. Kentucky's a little bit different. He was only raced here once. He has he started 16th, I believe, and finished 10th.
14th and finished 6th.
6th. Sorry, I knew I had the numbers right, just in the wrong position.
No, you're good.
But
can't remember everything.
That's a lot different than starting second and needing to obtain that and lead laps to pay off. But
that's the thing, man. Really think about it. He doesn't have to really do that to pay off. At $8,300, that's just above the Mendoza line of a Jamie McMurray. So if he can stay in the top 5, and if he leads just a little bit of laps, that's just extra bonus, man. Yeah. Gets a little bit of fastest laps, that's extra bonus. As long as he finishes in the top 5 with his salary, and you gotta obviously make sure that you get the other guy that's going to obviously be the main dominator. He's gonna pay off for you tomorrow.
But he's not topping 10-lap average charts, and all he did was run fast in qualifying trim for a lap. That's your argument, and I'm sorry. I'd rather go with the other guys. Do I think he has the ability to have a top 10 finish? Sure, but you're sacrificing guys that have place differential plays to play him, right? Which are going to score you way more points if they do what they're supposed to. And the dominators would have to sacrifice to be able to afford guys in that range it's just, to me, it's not a play I can make, and it's not a smart play. But if you're trying to make it from a contrarian standpoint, go ahead. I'm just worried that there's going to be the bandwagon effect where we're going to see people trying to play Eric Jones just because he won last week and broke out. And I'm sorry, I'm not like as excited as I am to see Eric Jones and one of the youngins win. I'm not going to get excited and say they finally came and showed up to the NASCAR circuit when they win on a restrictor plate track that over half the field was wrecked out on. Like, that is an absurd statement to say, like, oh, he's finally here on the, like, no, he wins at a 1.5 mile track or one of the skill tracks. Then I will let you say that he's arrived at NASCAR, okay? Like, is that fair?
Anything else you want to add?
No, I'm good. Tell me how you really feel.
Well, I'm just saying this, okay?
Okay.
At the end of the day, when the door closes and the books are shut, that guy's going to have a win. He's got to win in NASCAR. He's got to win at the top level of the sport.
Right.
He has a win.
So does Austin.
It doesn't hold on.
So
It doesn't
does
matter.
Austin
It
Dillon.
doesn't matter how it happens. It doesn't matter where it took place at. It doesn't matter how it happened. He's got to win. He will always have a win.
Right.
And that itself, with the win, regardless of how he got there, is going to give him and that number 20 team a lot of confidence. He just solidified himself a spot in the playoffs this season.
Okay, fair enough.
It's going to bring that team a lot of confidence. So it did shine a little bit today in where he was practicing at. And I'm just telling you right now, he's going to lead some laps tomorrow.
Fair enough. But Liehr, we play fantasy NASCAR. We don't play, hey, he got his win once at a restrictor plate track. So, like that means nothing to us as fantasy players.
But it does in the sport itself. Momentum is a huge thing in this sport.
Right.
And that team is carrying a ton of momentum.
Yeah, I just don't agree. I don't think you gain momentum by luck boxing your way into a win on a restrictor plate track. You dominate the way Rowdy or Truex or Harvick has, that gets you momentum, right? Like, you start winning on tracks and keep winning. Like, that's the momentum we talk about. But, like, for example, dude, how was Ricky's momentum when he won at the restrictor plates last year? He was terrible at most of the other tracks, right?
This isn't Sticky Ricky we're talking about.
Fair enough. But, like, what I'm saying is you're imposing a lot of stuff on a young driver without us having any sort of history for that. I think he's a good driver. I think he's got chops. He's got good skills. I'm excited that he won. I just think we need to temper expectations a little bit off of how he won.
I understand where you're coming from, when it comes to your stance on this. And, I totally understand. But we're just going to have, at the end of the day, just a differentiating opinion on this because I feel opposite. I feel that he's going to come out tomorrow and he's going to perform very, very well. He's going to surprise some people. And you guys out there, if you like money, you better get on it tomorrow. That's all I'm going to say.
Man, you can't make statements like that. Like, you can't make statements like that.
You know what that means of 2017.
In your opinion, but dude, your opinion.
That's all I can get people. Is
right. It could be it could be just. I'm not gonna make a claim that that's gonna win you all the money or lose you all the money because we don't know, man. Like, if you're right, perhaps. But even if you're right, there's a chance that I'm right as well, and the place differential guys outpoint him, and you need them instead. Isn't that also a possibility we have to acknowledge?
Well, yeah, for sure.
Okay, well, that's all I was trying to go for.
Okay. Point made. You got the check mark.
Check mark. Okay. Guys, I think that's going to conclude another show. We're going to let Liehr give us the results from last week's Rubbin' His Racing season-long fantasy contest. It's been awesome, even though some of us are getting handedly beat by our boy in first place. But Liehr, go ahead and give us the rundown on the results from last week.
By the way, I want to apologize to everybody for Big Poppa not delivering those last week, because I know people out there like to hear that stuff, especially when you take it down. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was a little distracted trying to get a show done at 3 a.m.
Congratulations to TD Spike for the monster score of 281. Man, how crazy was it last week? Like, everybody wrecking out, and basically it was just raced to avoid the attrition. But 50 points coming your way, sir. His lineup of last week was Chris Buescher with a 60, Ross Chastain with a 37.5, Matt D. Benedetto with a 62.5. Awesome finish for those guys. DJ Kennington with a 53.5. Paul Menard with a 19.5. And JJ Yaley with a 48 for 281. Yes, I did say DJ Kennington and JJ Yaley and Ross Chastain in the same lineup for the victory last week.
Hey, I called it on the show, guys. Some of those junk drivers show up on Daytona. Like, they're worth the plays. Like, we've seen those lineups take it down. And one of the guys that charges people for lineups, the lineup he played was nothing but scrubs. And because of the attrition, it jumped to first for a minutia until some of those guys got caught up in another one of Ricky's wreck. So, like I said, guys, either one of those lineup styles can work on a restrictor plate. But, guys, I think we've successfully wrapped up another week of Rubbing His Racing Daily Fantasy. Thank you again for tuning in. Remember to like, share, subscribe. You guys are what makes this show and make this community awesome. Thank you for participating. Liehr, say your goodbyes and get us out of here, man.
All right, boys and girls, make sure you get your lineups in for the league this week. I appreciate you guys watching the show. Let us know how we're doing and how you guys are doing out there. Hope you're enjoying the NASCAR season so far. Heading into Kentucky this weekend. Should be an awesome race. Can't wait to see it. I love. I don't know how you all feel about there, and leave some comments if you want to, but I love the Saturday night racing. I don't know about you, brother, but it just beats the Sunday racing for me. As somebody that has a child and, needs to spend time with them during the day, makes it hard on Sunday afternoons. But Saturday night, most times a lot of people are, if they're not going out, they're at home watching something. And what's better than watching some NASCAR on a Saturday night underneath the lights? So looking forward to it. Should be great. And here's to Furniture Row Racing taking it tomorrow and Joe Gibbs Racing.
With your Ford hat? You're going to salute them with your Ford hat, the Toyotas. Nice. Well done.
Doesn't mean I'm not a Ford fan. It just means
fair
that
enough.
I think that's what's going to happen tomorrow.
I'm just letting you know, steer clear of the qualifier because I'm going to take it down. I'm giving myself the best birthday present that I can Sunday. I'm going to get me a seat. At least that's my thought.
Well, hopefully, it's going to cost a little bit more this week, $77. By the way, DraftKings, come on, let's get our stuff together and get some good tournaments out there. Starting to get a little dicey.
The problem is once again, they overvaluate the 4th of July Daytona race, so they put out giant contests that they can't fill because people are doing stuff on the 4th of July weekend. And we've ran into this before. And then when they don't fill those contests, they then shrink the next weekend, which will autofill. But the top prizes in these contests are not enough money to warrant playing these contests, especially to warrant max entering. So until DraftKings changes that, I'm going to continue to play a limited amount of lineups every week because otherwise it doesn't make financial sense.
Make sure you get on some FanDuel.
Yeah, FanDuel has some good offerings as well, but once again, we've got some issues with prize pools in NASCAR. So hopefully we can get that straightened out. Guys, thanks again for tuning in. Liehr, you have anything else to add before we get out?
Have a great weekend, everybody.
Let's win some money this week, guys. Good luck, everybody.